Okay, in the finished piece, the background was a gradient from gray to white. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So we've got this layer 1 right here, and what I'll do is I'll double click right on this word, and I'll hit dash BG for background. Alright, so now I've changed the name of the layer. Not necessary, it's just a descriptive thing to help keep track of what's on what layer. Alright, and then I'm going to get this rectangle tool. And for the color, I'm going to click on the fill here. This is the fill and the stroke, right? Fill and stroke. And with the rectangle tool, you can draw rectangles. So if I make the stroke red and the fill blue, and I draw a rectangle, you'll get a blue fill and a red stroke. And then you can modify these things. You can take the stroke and make it bigger, right? And make a 4-pixel stroke. Right, outline essentially. You can change the quality of the stroke. It could be a dashed line, it could be a dotted line, it could be a ragged line, all those things, right? It's great for making windows and little areas for your text to show up or whatnot. And the other thing you can do is, if you wanted to, you can delete the pieces of the line by getting your select tool and then pressing delete. Notice I've just deleted part of the line. If I want to add it back, you get not the paint bucket, but the ink bottle, and click right on that edge and put the line back. Right? Ink bottle puts lines in, paint bucket paints fills. So I get the paint bucket, change the color, and click, and I've got a new fill. Also, in these fills, you've got some gradients here, radial gradients and linear gradients. So radial gradient, you click and drag, and you get this radial circular gradient. For a linear gradient, you also click and drag, and you get a gradient. If you drag a lot, you stretch out the gradient. If you drag a little, the gradient is a much narrow transition, or not as much of a transition from white to black in this case. You can also make your own gradients, and I'll be showing you how to do that in future movies. Okay, so for our background purposes, what we're going to do, I'm going to double click on this and delete it. That deletes the fill and the stroke. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to get the paint bucket. I'm going to have this gradient here, this linear black to white gradient, and I'm going to start by just getting that rectangle tool. And oh, for the stroke, I'm going to go to no stroke. I don't want to outline. And I will just click and drag a box. Alright, there it is. And now I'll get my paint bucket, and I will click and drag and then let go. And I want it to go from black to white, so I'm going to click and drag the other way. So if I click and drag this way, it'll go from black to white. Okay, and maybe I'll do that like that. Alright, black to white. So now I've got my background set up. It's just a rectangular shape. If I select it with my selection tool, it says shape here. It's got a linear gradient, no big deal. What I'll do now is I'll lock this so that I don't click on it accidentally. Okay, and now it's time to work on our next layer. Okay, time to do the next layer. For the next layer, I can do a couple of things to get a new layer. I can click on this little icon right here. So notice my cursor's over here. It's a new page icon, which is like a new layer, basically, icon right here. You've got the new layer icon, a new folder icon, and then the delete icon for the layers, right? And I click right here and add a new layer. Also, I could say insert timeline layer, right? Okay, so no big deal. I just like clicking on this little icon. Makes me layer 2, and I'm going to name it layer 2 text and button. That's where the text and button are going to go. Once again, I can stretch this out so I can read the layer. Alright, so I'm on layer 2. Notice the pencil shows that I'm on layer 2, that layer 2 is the active layer. Also, I can't draw on the background layer because I've got it locked, so that's handy. So I'm on my new layer, and we're going to put in some text. So I'll grab the text tool. I'm going to set my text tool properties here. I've got it set to classic text, static text. We'll explain these choices later as the class goes on. But classic text, static text, fonts, I've chosen Verdana, and bold, and I've got it set to size 26 right now. I'll change it to size 20, and I'm going to change the color to white. All right, and then I'll grab my text tool and I'll click here and I'll say need help question mark. So that's, I think, what we had on the website. Let's just double check here. Need help, go to the Dan's Courses forum. Okay, no problem. All right, so what I did was on this, I'm going to double click now and delete this font right here. So I'll all right, then I get the select tool and I've got the word need. If I want to make this bigger, I just select it once with my select tool and I can change the size. So need, and then once select tool, deselect. So there is a piece of text, a piece of static text on the stage in Flash. Now, if I want to change this text, an easy way to do it is to just double click on it and the tool changes to the text tool, and you can click and drag and highlight text and modify the text, change the size, change the color, change all these settings for it over here. You can see there's a bunch of settings that you can use. Yours probably looks just like this with this little character window here. And then the other thing I'll do is I'm going to put another piece of text here. So I'll get my text tool and I'm going to click below it and say need help with a question mark. All right, then I'll get my select tool and I'll position that. And if I wanted to, I could make this font a little bit smaller like I did in the other one. Need help. So it's kind of like a larger to smaller situation. Okay, and then for the next one, text tool again, go to, and then this time I'm going to hit Shift Enter, go to the. All right, so Shift Enter makes a new line. And why did I do this? I did this so that I have the flexibility. I made 3 text boxes, so I have the flexibility if I want to change the size of this or the color. It'll be separate from this. Also placement, if I wanted to place this in a different orientation or something like that. So I decided that I would just make 3 separate text boxes here. I don't know if it was a good thing or not. It's just I'm playing around and trying to figure out how to do this. I could have done this all in one text box, right, with 4 lines of text. So, but it's just the way I decided to do it. Now I'm going to get the text tool and type Dan's Courses, and I'll make it a capital C here, capital D. I can highlight this text here and also change the size like that. Then change the color to orange. Get my select tool, click on the letter, position it. Time to learn a new tool. I can nudge the text, the position of the text on the stage using the arrows on my keyboard. I'm going to rotate it slightly. To do that, I'm going to get the free transform tool, which looks like this. It's right below the select tool, and if you hover over it, it'll say free transform. All right, so I'll get that free transform tool and I'll select it, and notice you have these handlebars around it now. Instead of just a blue box, it's got these little anchor points, these handlebars, and what I'm going to do is put the cursor outside of this corner handlebar, and you'll see it turns into a curled arrow, and you can click and drag and it will rotate the text. So that's what I did. Also, what I can do is I'm going to go back to my select tool, click on the text, and apply a filter to it to get a little glow. So I'll open up the filter menu. Notice I have the text selected. So filters, and then I can click on the little new icon or add filter icon, and I'll say glow, and I'm going to change the color of the glow to a light yellow, and I'll change the quality from low to medium, and the strength from 100 to 116%, and the blur, I'll drag that up to 11. And that adds this little filtered glow outside of my text. It's kind of nice. So we learned how to add a filter, a glowing filter, to our text, and we also learned that we can rotate things with the transform tool. Also with the transform tool, what I can do is I can click on text and I can stretch it and change the quality of text, and that's really helpful. I like to do that quite a bit, is alter my text in different ways. Also with the text, you've got these options for how you want it to line up. If you go to the paragraph tab here, and with the text selected, you can play with spacing, margins, all kinds of stuff, so that's kind of handy. Alright, last but not least, we got to do the button, and that's going to be a little bit different. It's also going to be text, and we'll do that next.